Time for another episode on the Accord project. Let's get to it. Now that we have all that old paint sanded down, we're about ready for primer, but we're gonna have to mask it and tape it and all that fun stuff. Now, it's gonna be loud, it's gonna be hot, so there probably won't be a lot of narrative in this one, so let's get to work. Now, because most of this video is so loud, I'm going to go ahead and add some narration over the top, which is something I've never done before. So, of course, right here, we got to mask everything up for that first coat of primer. Well, it took a little while, but it's all taped up and masked. All right, it's prime time. I'm just going over the car with some wax and grease remover because we don't want to make any of that stuff a permanent part of our paint. Had a little snafu with the camera, so we'll just go ahead and pause the video right there. Evidently, I hit stop instead of record and vice versa. But I went and took epoxy primer and I sprayed all of the exposed bare metal areas so we could protect them from corrosion and rust. So that's the gray that you see right there. After spraying the epoxy primer, I went ahead and sprayed the entire vehicle with 2 coats of high build primer. And that high build primer allows us to take block sanders and block out some of the imperfections. Unfortunately, it was extremely hot out when I was spraying the primer, and I had issues with it setting up in the gun and skinning over and things like that. So I was definitely concerned about ruining my good spray gun, so I switched to a cheap Harbor Freight gun. So most of the finish you're looking at right there was shot from a cheap Harbor Freight gun. And so I just had to turn off the cameras and focus on spraying this vehicle. So right there, the shot we're looking at is after 2 coats of high build primer. And there's a shot of the Harbor Freight gun. I think I paid 12 bucks for that thing, but hey, it worked. Well, it's all primed. It's not perfect, but well, I guess it's better than peeling paint. Now it's time to block down that high build primer. Right here, I'm using a soft foam block for some of those curves, but I'll also be using the hard Durablocks too. Alright, I blocked it down with 180 grit, and the panels were really flat. I was very happy that they blocked out really flat. I didn't really see any issues. I did have a minor imperfection here and on the fender, and I fixed those. I did break through in a couple areas, so I went ahead and shot more primer in those areas. So if you look close, you can see the 2 different sheens. That's because I just got done spraying primer again. And I bought these soft sanders just for this job. I never used them before. They're made out of foam and they flex more than the Durablock does. I like the Durablock, they're great. But you know, for different contours and different flexes, especially that part on the hood that I was having a lot of trouble with, these flexible soft foam block sanders really work well. Right here I'm spraying more primer over some imperfections that I had to fix. Still using the Harbor Freight gun. I believe this is the 2nd coat of primer on these spots right here. I do have the tape situated in a way where we're not leaving a hard edge. That makes our sanding a little bit easier. Alright, got the primer all done. It's all blocked out. I did find a few imperfections that I had to fix and then reprime, and then I had to fix a few sand through areas where I cut through to the bare metal. Got those primed and sanded down again. Now it's sanded down to 600 grit, so it's ready to go. We're going with the base over this. I'm starting to mask it off. I just got to finish masking it, and then we'll try painting it. And I think what I'll do is I'm just going to do one panel right here. I think I'll just do this fender, and we'll do a test panel just to see how everything comes out before we try to shoot the whole car. Alright, car's all masked off. You can see I have plastic over the entire car. I'm just going to do a test run on that panel right there. Make sure the color comes out okay. There's our color. It's going to be the red Bordeaux Pearl. I believe that's how they say it. That's the original factory color, so that's what we're going with. I do have some netting up to keep the bugs and little critters out, but a stupid fly got in here before I got the netting up, so I got to get him first before we start spraying. I did have couple tiny cut throughs from sanding. I mean, just very small to the metal. So I just hit those with some self-etch primer, so we should be good to go. Ha! Got him. Big Dog 1, Fly 0. Right here, I just got done shooting the first coat of base. And this is a shot of the second coat of base, and I could still see the self-etch primer showing through the base coat, so I knew that I was going to need 3 coats of base for this car after that. Alright, shot 3 coats of base, and then I just shot 1 coat of clear. We'll shoot another coat of clear on top of this and see how it looks. When that first coat of clear feels like a sticky piece of tape, we're ready for that second coat. And here we go with the second coat of clear. I'll just sit back and let you watch me spray this entire panel. Here's a nice shot of a piece of trash that landed in the paint. And this is the gun I was using, Concourse Pro from Eastwood. Here's a look at that panel after the second coat of clear. And another view of it. Not too bad. But even the big dog is not immune to issues. There's a nice run we got in the bottom of that panel. Now it's time to tape and mask off the car. I'm taping off this belt molding in a way that I'll be able to pull that tape off first. Got the car covered in plastic now. I'm just taking a razor blade, trimming it all back. Now I'm just taping up the bottom plastic so it won't blow around. And there's a final still shot, ready to be painted. Just mopping up to keep the dust down. Now I'm using some water-based cleaner to clean everything off one last time. And this right here is wax and grease remover for a final cleanup. Now I'm taking some self-etch primer and I'm just touching up any little cut through areas where I cut through that primer when I was sanding and exposed the bare metal. We want to seal that off so it doesn't corrode. Now I'm taking a tack rag, going over the car, trying to pick up any last pieces of dust or debris that may be sitting on top of that primer. All right, finally, time to lay down some paint. Of course, right about now is when I remembered that I forgot to put my respirator on, but I decided I'm going to finish up that side of the hood, then I'll go grab it. I think I was holding my breath right about now. All right, now that I have my respirator on, we can continue painting this hood. Just trying to keep that gun about 6 inches from the panel, overlapping at least 50% or more, and then just trying to keep it nice, even, steady strokes. We just got to get that paint on there, that first coat. You don't need to put it on too heavy, but we don't want to be too light either. We'll speed things up a little bit. I'm just using a step stool to reach the top of the hood there. And I'll slow it down here so you can watch me paint this door panel. Just using overlapping strokes, trying to keep it steady, and I'm keeping that gun moving when I'm going on and off the trigger. If you're really brave, you can just hold that trigger down, but not me. I don't like to paint that way. I do start and stop, but I try to keep that gun moving when I do it. All right, I sprayed 2 coats already. This is the 3rd coat. Slowed it down on the door so you can kind of watch me. Definitely going slower now. And then on this 3rd coat, after I'm done, we're going to spray a drop coat just to kind of even things out. And that drop coat I'm going to spray further away from the panel, probably about 12 inches or so. Right there, I sprayed under the door handle, and then there's the drop coat. And right here, I'm just looking at the coverage, making sure I didn't miss anything. And now the fun part, shooting the clear. I'm overlapping my strokes just like I did with the base coat, but I'm definitely laying this first coat of clear on a little heavier than I laid the first coat of base on. Now I'm shooting the 2nd coat of clear, trying to go a little bit slower on this one, really hammer that clear on, just not so slow that I'll leave runs. And of course, in between all these coats, you have to wait the appropriate flash time. Now I just got done shooting that 2nd coat of clear, and I'm pulling the masking off that belt molding. Ooh, just got done painting the car. Ooh, it's hot out. Sorry, I didn't have time to film it. This is just too much work. I don't have a cam to put on my head. I didn't want to ruin the finish because I was messing around with the camera, so I had to do 3.5 coats plus 2 coats of clear, so 3 base, 2 clear. So I just didn't have time to film, sorry. But there she is. I'll take you around the car as soon as I get all the sweat off my head. Alright, there she is, all painted. This one was a test panel. I can't remember if I showed you that or not. But I painted this panel first just to test it out, make sure my equipment worked, make sure I liked the color and all that. We went with the factory original color. So I was happy with the color, although in this test panel I did get a couple pieces of trash, which is to be expected. I'm not painting in a paint booth. I try to make it as clean as I can, but you're still going to get some trash in the paint. I did have a run right here. I felt it when I was doing it, 2nd coat of clear. I put a little run on this test panel, so I'll have to fix that. But that's why this is taped off, because I didn't need to paint this again, at least right now. If I can't fix it, I'll have to just tape it off and reshoot it. But I went ahead and shot the rest of the car all at once. Like I said, I put 3 coats of base plus a half drop coat just to kind of even out the metal flakes. And if there's kind of a pearl in here, so we want to make sure we don't have any striping and issues like that. Hopefully I don't have too much junk in this paint. Hopefully I don't have any more runs other than the one that's under the plastic there. But looks pretty good so far. I definitely like this color. It's a nice deep kind of maroon, ruby, whatever. The tape right here I pulled off as soon as I shot the 2nd coat. I had it ready to go. I was afraid that the clear was going to bridge onto the molding there, because that molding is pinched really tight, and so I didn't want the clear to get bridged onto there. So this molding right here and then one on the other side, I taped it so that I could pull it off as soon as I was done. And so that's what I did. So that should allow the paint to flow right on or right next to that trim, and we won't have any issues pulling off the masking. Hopefully we don't have any more issues. That was the only place where I saw that it was really, really tight. The sunroof is kind of tight also. Hopefully we don't have issues, but I did crack it just a hair. I mean, just a hair to prevent that. But that's what happens when you can't take the molding off. You got to work around it. You know, this one I have pulled back a little bit, so we should be okay. But you can check out the job I did. I'm not a professional painter. I used to paint professionally, but not cars. So whatever I do, you don't have to necessarily take my advice on painting. This, I'm just doing it, well, because I wanted to. But looks pretty good so far. We just got to get, for at least the next 30 to 40 minutes, we don't want too much dust to land on here, so we don't want to move stuff around or do a bunch of stuff that's going to create dust. Hopefully I took a before shot of this, but the paint was really trashed before I started, so no matter what, it's going to look better than when we started. I used my bug netting to keep all the bugs from flying in so they don't land on the paint, because they love to land on the paint. And then I used some house air filters, put them right in front of the fan. They did a good job catching all the overspray. See all this red here? That's why I like to cover the engine compartment with plastic, and I did the same thing in the trunk area, just so I don't have to clean up all this overspray. Now most of it lands dry, but still, this would all have to be cleaned up.
And after about 2 hours, I felt it was safe to go ahead and pull all the masking off.
Alright, it's all unmasked. There she is. There was, on this trim right here and that door, there was a little black piece of rubber that goes along the bottom. Similar to this one that's on the top. It was fallen off, and in fact it was missing in a little spot. Maybe it was over here, I don't remember. But it was missing a chunk, and it was falling apart. It was making it difficult to tape, and I knew it was going to happen. I would tape it, and then as soon as I pulled it off, that thing would come out, and then I would have a, you know, crappy tape line. It would look like a wave in the ocean. So I just pulled it out. This one and that one. The other side it was fine, but on this door and that passenger rear door, I pulled them out. So we have a nice clean line where paint went up into the panel. There is a little bit bigger gap than there should be because there's no little rubber trim, and I'm talking that rubber trim's like this big. But I think it looks better like this, and you know, can't get this trim anymore. You can see it's falling apart a little bit, but hey, looks better than it did.
Now it's time to paint the trim. I did spray these previously with some sealer to try to give us a nice smooth finish. And just like the car, we're going to spray 3 coats of base and 2 coats of clear. And it was hot out, so I would drink some Gatorade in between coats and clean my glasses. I'm spraying that second coat of clear on now, and just like the car, I'm spraying it on kind of heavy. And I'm taking a light and checking the coverage.
Just got done painting the bumpers and all the trim. I think they came out pretty good. These bumpers are trash. They really should be replaced. I did the best I could. Well, I take that back. I did the best that I wanted to do. I really could have primed those about 8 times and sanded in between, but I didn't feel like doing that to try to get all the road rash out because they really are beat up. But hey, they look better than what they did. I'm very happy with the mirrors and the trim. They look pretty darn good. I'll be painting some of these trim pieces black again. Like these are for the license plate, and they were painted with or hit with overspray, I should say. Looked like crap. Doing the spray nozzles too. I'm painting them black. I sprayed them as a test to see how I like it, and I like it. So I'm not going to paint them body colored like they came. I'm going to leave them black. That'll be my little signature. And on stuff like this, I like to give it about 3 coats, and on that second and third coat I like to hit it pretty heavy. That way that paint kind of flows out, gives it a nice sheen. They definitely look a lot better than the way they did before, which they were kind of half painted with a bunch of overspray, so I'm happy with it.
Now it's time to spray the rest of the black trim. I'll be using my spray gun for these. I also sprayed sealer on these beforehand to try to give us a nice smooth finish. While I had everything set up, I went ahead and sprayed the wiper arms also.
Alright, just got done painting all this stuff with 3 coats of black trim paint. They look pretty good. It's still drying, so there's some high and low spots in there. That piece right there in the middle, that goes on the bottom of the front bumper cover. That thing is in bad shape, really bad shape, but it's black now. It looks a lot better than it did. I'm happy. Everything looks pretty darn good. I'm very happy with the repair on that bumper. That small piece right there was the piece that was cracked that we had to fix. So all in all, this stuff is looking a lot better than when we started. And these wiper arms look brand new. I mean, the sheen on that black looks just like it came from the factory. Very happy with these. And this is the trim paint that I used. This stuff is from SEM, so it comes in aerosol form and it comes in cans, so you can spray it out of a spray gun. So I use this for the larger pieces and this for the smaller pieces. If you do get the cans, you do have to reduce it with a good quality reducer. I use the same reducer that I used for the base coat, but the stuff definitely works well on plastic and metal pieces like you saw here. Tell you what, I beat the heck out of this air compressor painting this car, and it worked great. Very happy with this thing. Well, that's it for this one, but we still got a lot of work to do, so stay tuned for more videos on this Accord project in the future. If you're curious about specifications like tip sizes and what paint I'm using and stuff like that, I'll have a video coming out where I paint the door jamb on this car, and I'll give you all those details, so stay tuned for that. And as always, if the video helped you out or you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.